Imagine spending 1.6 billion pounds, like literally more than the GDP of several small nations.
Yeah, it's a staggering number, just hard to even wrap your head around.
Right. And you spend all that only to have your fans actively begging for the return of a manager you fired a year ago.
Just to stop the club from completely imploding, yeah.
Exactly, just to keep the ship from sinking. Yeah. So welcome to the final chaotic stretch of the Premier League season. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a dynamic that you can't map it on a spreadsheet.
No, definitely not.
You can't capture this in an expected goals graphic.
Yeah.
We're decoding the intense, highly unpredictable psychological warfare that is just tearing through English football right now.
Because at this point, the physical and tactical battles honestly, they've almost completely taken a back seat.
Oh, for sure.
By the time you get to this stage in April, the data only tells you maybe half the story. The rest of it is entirely dictated by which squad can handle the suffocating mental pressure. And, well, which squads are just crumbling under it.
And to really get the full picture of this collapse, we pulled a pretty unique stack of sources for you today.
Yeah, this was a fun one to put together.
It really was. So we are looking at the official match reports. Specifically, the highly sterilized, PR-polished accounts from Manchester City and Chelsea after their clash at Stamford Bridge.
The ones where everything is about the process and execution.
Exactly. But we are cross-referencing those sanitized versions with something much more real. We dug into the highly candid, completely unfiltered match threads and fan forums from Reddit.
Which is where the real truth comes out.
Oh, absolutely. We've pulled data from the communities of Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester United. It gives us this incredible look at the raw, emotional underbelly of the sport.
It creates such a brilliant contrast. I mean, you have the official club narratives championing their process, right?
Yeah.
And that's juxtaposed against fans who are essentially documenting a collective psychological breakdown in real time.
It's fascinating. So our mission today is to figure out what happens to the human psyche when a season-long dream slowly turns into a slow-motion nightmare.
It's dark, but it's so compelling.
It really is. If you are an Arsenal fan or a player right now, the walls are just closing in on you. But to understand the panic that is gripping North London, we first have to look at the machine that's causing it all.
The machine woke up this weekend.
It sure did. It woke up and made a massive, emphatic statement in West London. Let's talk about Manchester City's visit to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, resulting in a 3-0 demolition of Chelsea. And I mean, demolition is really the most accurate word here.
Oh, totally.
Even if the scoreline took until the second half to actually reflect that dominance.
Because if you only watched the first half, you might have actually assumed Chelsea had the upper hand. They had moments of genuine threat.
They did. It was 0-0 going into the break.
Right, and Chelsea even had a goal ruled out. Marc Cucurella finished off this really slick, slaloming run from João Pedro.
That was a beautiful build-up.
It was. Yeah. But the offside flag went up. VAR confirmed it, though it was incredibly tight. And Chelsea had other moments, too. Cole Palmer was driving into the box. Pedro Neto forced a great save from Gianluigi Donnarumma.
Chelsea was applying real, tangible pressure there.
Yeah, but that specific first-half performance from Chelsea, I think it highlights exactly why Manchester City is so terrifying.
I agree completely. Because City just absorbed that early Chelsea pressure. They dealt with the offside scare. They watched Matheus Nunes misplace a simple 3-meter pass.
Oh, and he got the classic Pep Guardiola glare from the touchline for that.
He absolutely did. But after all that, City simply resets. They rely entirely on their structure.
Right.
Chelsea expended massive, just huge amounts of emotional and physical energy trying to force a breakthrough, and City just recalibrates, analyzes the defensive shape, and waits for the opponent to tire out.
I was thinking about this, and playing City is like playing a supercomputer at chess. Like
Stockfish.
Yes, exactly like Stockfish. They don't feel momentum. If Chelsea wins a pawn or creates a massive chance in the first 10 minutes, the computer doesn't panic.
It doesn't get frustrated either.
Not at all. It instantly recalculates the board, shifts its defensive structure, and systematically finds the mate in 12. That total lack of emotional variance, that's what breaks human teams.
That algorithmic recalibration was on full display in the second half. Whatever adjustments Guardiola made in that dressing room, it triggered a 17-minute blitz that completely shattered Chelsea's defensive resolve.
It was clinical.
Clinical and absolutely ruthless.
Let's break down that blitz because the personnel involved is super fascinating. So, in the 51st minute, Nico Riley breaks the deadlock.
Right.
Now, he's an academy player, nominally a left back, but he's playing in this central attacking position inside the box, right alongside Erling Haaland.
Which is such a Guardiola move.
Exactly. And he physically holds off Chelsea's Andre Santos to head the ball home.
Because Guardiola's tactical system is designed to create those specific overloads. By pushing a fullback into a central attacking area, it scrambles all the defensive marking assignments.
Yeah, just causes chaos.
Chelsea's midfielders don't know whether to track him, which would leave Haaland one-on-one, or pass him off to a center back. And that hesitation, that tiny fraction of a second, buys O'Reilly exactly the time he needs to win the header.
Wow, yeah. And then, just 6 minutes later, it's 2-0. Mark Gahey, a center back, receives the ball, turns, and drills a shot low into the bottom corner.
The official match report actually noted it was a finish Erling Haaland would have been proud of.
It really was a striker's finish. And finally, in the 68th minute, Jeremy Doku wins the ball off Moises Caicedo, high up in the Chelsea half, forces the turnover, and ruthlessly finishes it.
3 goals.
17 minutes. The game is just over.
And we really need to highlight the architect of that destruction, Ryan Cherki.
Oh, yes. He was phenomenal.
He provided 2 elite assists. He set up O'Reilly's header, and for Gahey's goal, he skipped past 2 Chelsea challenges right on the edge of the box and slipped this perfect pass through the lines.
I was reading the City fan forums, and they were comparing his vision to prime Kevin De Bruyne. They specifically noted this incredible no-look pass he threw in.
High praise. And Guardiola explicitly called Cherki an extraordinary player and a top talent in the post-match press conference.
But you know, Cherki's post-match comments, I found them incredibly telling regarding the mentality of this whole City squad.
Oh, how so?
Well, he claimed he doesn't feel pressure. He said he just wants to play with his teammates and give pleasure to the fans. He kept saying they are very happy.
Right.
But I don't buy that entirely. I mean, how can they not feel pressure? They are chasing down a title. The physical toll is massive. Isn't it more likely that they are just more terrified of Guardiola's wrath than they are of the opposition?
Yeah.
And that internal fear kind of overrides the match pressure.
Well, Guardiola certainly demands perfection. There's no doubt about that. But the culture he has built is deeply rooted in systemic trust, not fear.
Interesting. You think it's just trust?
Yeah, because when players trust the tactical system implicitly, their cognitive load drops. They aren't out there improvising under stress. They are executing highly drilled patterns.
Ah, I see.
That heavily reduces the feeling of external pressure, and that lack of visible anxiety from City, that is a psychological weapon. It defeats teams in the tunnel before they even step onto the pitch.
It's crazy, but the numbers actually back up that psychological dominance.
Yeah.
The forums are buzzing with this one statistic that has rival fans legitimately hyperventilating.
Let's hear it.
In their last 3 matches against the absolute heavyweights of the league, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool, Manchester City has scored 9 goals.
And conceded.
0. They've conceded 0. 9-0 against 3 of the traditional Big 6.
It completely dismantles the narrative that the top of the Premier League is highly competitive when City finds this gear.
It really does.
Opponents see City entering this baseline expectation of peaking in April and May, and a sense of fatalism just sets in. I mean, the moment O'Reilly scored, Chelsea's belief visibly evaporated.
Yeah, you could see their shoulders drop.
Because teams start playing against the reputation of Manchester City rather than the 11 players actually on the grass.
And that aura of inevitability, that brings us directly to the team currently looking over their shoulder in sheer, unadulterated panic.
Arsenal.
A team that is absolutely terrified of becoming the bottle factory of the Premier League once again. To really understand their mindset, we have to look at the mathematical reality facing them right now.
Okay, so let's lay out the table. Arsenal currently sits at the top with 70 points after 32 games.
Yep.
Manchester City is in second with 64 points, but that's after 31 games.
Exactly. So City is 6 points behind, but they have a crucial game in hand. If they win that, the gap shrinks to just 3 points.
And Arsenal has to travel to the Etihad to face Manchester City next Sunday.
Which is effectively a title decider. Because if City wins their game in hand and then beats Arsenal, the points are tied.
And then it comes down to goal difference.
Right. And thanks to these 3-0 demolition jobs, City is rapidly closing that goal difference gap too.
The reaction on the Arsenal fan forums is, well, apocalyptic is the best word for it.
It's so grim.
Despite being top of the league for so long, the fans are deeply depressed. They describe their own team's play style as ponderous. They say it's heavily reliant on set pieces rather than open play.
Yeah, they see a team that is intensely risk-averse, focused entirely on not making mistakes rather than actively trying to go out and win the game.
I know you found a quote that summed this up.
Yes. There was this striking quote from an Arsenal fan on Reddit that encapsulated this perfectly. They wrote, "The idea of watching Arsenal play is better than watching Arsenal play at the moment."
Wow, that hits hard.
It does. Because the concept of supporting a title-winning team is intoxicating, right? But the lived experience of watching a team paralyzed by fear for 90 minutes is just agonizing.
This is a textbook example of behavioral economics playing out on a football pitch. Specifically, the concept of loss aversion.
Oh, break that down for us.
So loss aversion means the psychological pain of losing something you already possess. In this case, the #1 spot on the table is twice as powerful as the joy of gaining it in the first place.
That makes so much sense.
Arsenal has held the top spot for months. Now they aren't playing to win the league, they're playing not to lose it.
I mean, if you ever sat in a meeting and decided not to pitch a great idea because you were terrified your boss might hate it, you understand exactly why Arsenal is playing so ponderously right now.
Exactly.
They are managing risk instead of chasing reward. They take an extra touch, they second-guess a forward pass, and they default to this conservative low-risk style.
And against a team like Manchester City, playing not to lose is a guaranteed death sentence.
100%.
You invite pressure, you surrender the initiative, and eventually the dam just breaks. You have to remember, Arsenal is carrying a 22-year title drought on their shoulders.
It's a massive weight.
The fear of bottling it has essentially become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And City recently beat Arsenal in a cup final, which established a massive psychological edge.
Yeah, the Arsenal fans are genuinely terrified that Mikel Arteta will set the team up to play for a draw at the Etihad.
Which would just allow City to slowly, methodically tear them apart.
Right. But while Arsenal's points total is stalling out and causing all this panic, the broader historical context of this season's points race is raising a lot of eyebrows.
It's definitely a weird season statistically.
Yeah, so Arsenal is on 70 points with 6 games remaining.
Yeah.
That means the absolute maximum number of points they can achieve this season is 88.
They can no longer mathematically reach 90 points.
Which is wild, because the baseline for excellence has been completely warped over the last few years.
It really has. We've seen teams routinely hit 90 to 100 points. We've seen teams get 92 or 97 points and still finish second.
Exactly. So seeing the league leaders stall out in the 70s with just a handful of games left, it feels really jarring.
It begs the question, right? Are the top teams simply worse than they were 3 years ago?
Yeah, or does a low points title race mean the middle and bottom of the league have gotten significantly stronger, making the league as a whole more competitive and exhausting?
I tend to lean towards the latter. The distribution of television money in the Premier League guarantees that a team sitting in 15th place can afford to buy international caliber players.
That's a great point. The wealth is spread out enough to make everyone dangerous.
Exactly. The tactical floor of the league has been raised significantly. You just don't get easy games anymore. Every away fixture is a physical battle, leading to dropped points across the board.
So the era of the 100-point season might have been the anomaly, not the rule.
Very likely, yeah.
Try telling that to a rival fan looking for an excuse to invalidate a championship, though.
Oh, they'll use anything.
I was reading the Liverpool fan threads, and they noted that last season, Liverpool won the title with exactly 84 points.
And rival fans mock them relentlessly for it.
Relentlessly, calling it a low points anomaly and suggesting it was just a weak year. Now, Liverpool fans are pointing out that whoever wins it this season might finish with even fewer than 84 points.
Fan invalidation is such a powerful mechanism.
It really is.
If Arsenal wins it with 86 points, City and United fans will call it a weak era. If City wins it with 85 points, Arsenal and Liverpool fans will say the exact same thing.
There's always an asterisk if your team isn't the one winning. But, the sheer grind of this highly competitive point-dropping season isn't just exhausting the players, it is putting managers squarely on the chopping block.
The managerial attrition rate is brutal right now.
Let's talk about Chelsea again. If their billion-pound panic is driven by buyer's remorse, the managerial situations across the rest of the league are driven by pure attrition. Look at Liam Rosignor at Chelsea.
Yeah, that situation is turning toxic quickly.
The defeat to Manchester City makes it 1 win in their last 7 games. They are sitting in 6th place, but the gap to the teams below them is shrinking rapidly.
And the Chelsea fans are furious because Rosignor's tactical setup against City was just baffling.
Oh, the Andre Santos decision.
Exactly. Rosenior played Andre Santos essentially as a right center back in the defensive phase.
Santos is a midfielder.
Right. And fans were pointing out that it was painfully obvious why it was a bad idea. Santos cannot defend a cross against physical Premier League forwards.
The fans zeroed in on that specific mismatch immediately. Like, when Nico O'Reilly outmuscled Santos in the box for the opening goal, I saw one fan note, if that's Tosin Adarabioyo marking him, that's going in the goal.
Because it's a structural failure. When a manager overcomplicates the structure to the point where players are operating in unfamiliar roles against the most ruthless attacking machine in Europe, disaster is literally inevitable.
Right, and Rosenior is viewed as this modern, deep-thinking tactician, but the fans are pointing to a history of over-tinkering.
Yeah, he dropped goalkeeper Robert Sanchez for Philip Jorgensen earlier in his tenure, which really destabilized the defense.
So the fan base feels this profound disconnect from the manager's vision.
They don't understand what he's trying to build.
The overarching feeling in the Chelsea fan base right now is immense regret regarding the board's decision to sack Enzo Maresca on New Year's Day.
That really seems to be the turning point for them.
Fans are explicitly stating that firing Maresca for speaking the truth sealed their fate. They feel the club is mathematically and culturally regressing despite the ownership spending £1.6 billion.
They are only 2 points ahead of Brighton, a club they actively rated for executives and players.
It's so ironic. The despair is so deep that fans are ironically joking about a Super Frank Season 3 return.
Wow. When a fan base resorts to gallows humor about rehiring a failed former manager like Frank Lampard, the connection between the supporters and the current project is completely severed.
It's broken beyond repair.
A fan in the post-match thread actually pointed out that when Chelsea falls behind, the players show no passion or motivation to step up. They claim that even a struggling Spurs team plays with more purpose.
Honestly, being compared unfavorably to the current Spurs team is the ultimate insult right now.
Yeah.
It really is.
But before we cross London to look at Tottenham, we have to look at the situation brewing in the Northeast. Eddie Howe is sitting dismally in 14th place with Newcastle after a 2-1 loss to Crystal Palace.
Jean-Philippe Mateta scored 2 late goals, including a 94th-minute penalty to just completely sink them.
Newcastle had massive expectations following their recent Saudi takeover and Champions League qualification. Dropping to 14th is a severe regression.
Rival fans are completely bewildered as to why Howe isn't under more pressure from the ownership.
Well, the fans on the Newcastle forums had a few theories about that, heavily focused on the financial regulations. They pointed to the tight PSR.
Profitability and sustainability rules.
Exactly. And when we talk about PSR, it's not just a slap on the wrist anymore. It's a rolling 3-year ledger where a club cannot lose more than £105 million.
And exactly how that impacts managerial security is fascinating, because sacking Howe and his staff requires a massive severance payout.
And that payout counts against the PSR ledger immediately. It makes a managerial change financially unappetizing. Newcastle knows that firing Howe doesn't solve the PSR issues. It actually exacerbates them.
Furthermore, fans argue the poor recruitment isn't entirely on Howe. They point out that his nephew is leading the recruitment team.
Which is a structural issue way above his head.
Right. So they are essentially trapped in this marriage of financial convenience, at least until the summer window opens and the accounting resets.
But while Chelsea and Newcastle are dealing with mid-table mediocrity caused by structural mismanagement, there's a far darker disaster unfolding that perfectly mirrors Arsenal's title anxiety.
Oh, yeah. Because just down the road from Arsenal's title-choking fears, Tottenham Hotspur isn't fighting for a trophy. They are fighting for their very survival in the Premier League.
Spurs are currently sitting in 18th place.
They are in the relegation zone after losing 1-0 to Sunderland, courtesy of a Nordi Mukiele goal in the 61st minute.
The North London rivalry between Arsenal and Spurs is always intense, right? But the stakes this season have created a bizarre psychological scenario. The twisted fan logic emerging from this crisis is basically a masterclass in sports hatred.
I saw a comment from a Spurs fan genuinely suggesting, and others were enthusiastically agreeing with them, that they would accept relegation to the championship if it guaranteed that Arsenal finished second and lost the title.
It's wild to hear.
I have to push back on this. Relegation is financial suicide. It guts the squad, it sets a club back half a decade financially, and it completely derails whatever project you're building. How does a fan base become so consumed by their rival's failure that they welcome their own absolute destruction?
It speaks to the zero-sum nature of football tribalism. In the minds of these specific fans, the pain of seeing Arsenal parade the Premier League trophy after 22 years, having to endure the gloating, the media coverage, the complete shift in local dominance, that is perceived as a fate worse than playing in the second tier.
Wow.
Relegation is a shared misery. An Arsenal title win is a targeted humiliation.
The tension in North London must be thick enough to cut with a knife right now. Just imagine the dual narrative on the final day of the season.
The script writes itself.
The very real possibility of Arsenal losing their first title in over 2 decades on the exact same weekend that Tottenham Hotspur gets relegated from the Premier League.
Both fan bases are existing in a state of perpetual dread, just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
And while North London stews in anxiety, dread, and apocalyptic scenarios, fans in the northwest of England are pulling up lawn chairs and grabbing the popcorn.
Oh, they are loving every second of this.
The concept of the rival watch or hate watch thread is such a staple of modern football fandom on platforms like Reddit. When your team isn't directly involved in the title clash, you gather in these digital spaces to actively root for maximum chaos and misery for your rivals.
Liverpool fans had what they consider a perfect weekend.
Yeah, they did.
They secured 3 points, while Aston Villa dropped points drawing with Nottingham Forest, and obviously Chelsea got hammered by City. So Liverpool has built a lovely little buffer in the race for the top 4 and Champions League qualification.
Because their own house is relatively secure, they can turn their attention entirely to Arsenal. Liverpool fans are actively rooting for Manchester City to pull off a domestic treble this season.
Which is crazy because they don't even like City.
Right. But they want to witness the sensational fallout among the Arsenal fan base. They know exactly how devastating it is to be chased down by Guardiola's machine, having lived through it themselves, and they are finding immense entertainment in watching Arsenal endure that same psychological torture.
The mood from the Manchester United camp is remarkably similar, though maybe even a bit more gleeful.
Oh, they're thrilled.
United is sitting comfortably in 3rd place with 55 points, likely securing Champions League football. So they're completely insulated from the immediate panic of the title race, and they are outright laughing at what they are calling the North London bottle factory.
They are reveling in both sides of the coin. They're watching Spurs' impending relegation with absolute delight, and they're watching Arsenal's high-profile stumble with equal pleasure.
It's interesting to compare the two, though. Liverpool fans are highly focused on how the weekend's results secure their own top 4 safety. There's a pragmatic joy there.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas United fans seem to be purely indulging in the comedic value of Chelsea spending $1.6 billion to become terrible and Tottenham fundamentally collapsing.
It's pure comedy to them. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, schadenfreude is a vital coping mechanism in sports, isn't it?
Absolutely. The reality is only one team can win the league. The vast majority of fans end the season disappointed.
Yep.
When your team isn't winning, the next best source of entertainment, the next best way to validate your own emotional investment in the sport is watching the favorites dramatically, publicly collapse. It provides this incredible communal bonding experience.
It allows fans to say, well, we might not be winning the league, but at least we aren't suffering that specific, humiliating heartbreak.
It's the ultimate consolation prize.
It's like watching someone else drop their ice cream cone right before they take a bite.
And the closer that rival is to the finish line before they drop it, the sweeter the schadenfreude tastes for everyone watching.
It's brutal, but it's true. So we started by attempting to map the intense, unpredictable psychological warfare of the Premier League's final stretch. We've seen Manchester City's algorithmic, stockfish-like pursuit of the summit, characterized by that ruthless 17-minute blitz against Chelsea.
We examined the agonizing mental toll this machine is taking on an Arsenal squad paralyzed by loss aversion, which is leading to that ponderous, risk-averse style of play.
Right, and we looked at the broader implications of a low-points title race, where TV money has raised the tactical floor, making every single point an exhausting battle.
We tracked the managerial casualties, too. Liam Rose Sr. facing the wrath of a fan base that's regretting the sacking of Maresca after a massive spending spree.
And Eddie Howe clinging to his job at Newcastle, partly due to the financial handcuffs of PSR.
We dove into the twisted, zero-sum tribalism of Spurs fans actually welcoming relegation just to spite Arsenal.
And finally, we saw how Liverpool and Manchester United fans are utilizing hate watch threads to extract pure joy from the misery of others.
It is a totally comprehensive portrait of the human condition under the extreme stress of elite sporting competition.
It really is. Now, to wrap up this deep dive, consider the scale of the operations we've discussed today. The tactical systems, the data analytics, the billions of pounds spent on international talent and world-class
It's
facility.
massive, massive industry.
But I want you to think about this. If a football club spends 1.6 billion pounds, like Chelsea, or goes 22 years building toward a single defining moment, like Arsenal, only to mentally collapse at the finish line because they are paralyzed by the pressure.
Does it mean the structural system of the sport is broken, or does it just prove that in the end, regardless of the money or the tactics, sports are decided entirely by the fragile, unpredictable human mind?
That's the real question. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives behind the numbers, and we will catch you next time.